Hello, my friend. It's Heather. I hope you're having an outstanding day. Welcome back to the Back to Me podcast, where we're going to talk, as usual, about things that will make you happier, healthier, etc. Harmony, balance, flow, uh, advice.
Yeah.
So today I'm talking to Simeone Fruke, who wrote a book, and I'm going to say it. Okay, first I'll say, if you don't like swearing, don't listen to this episode. Stop it right now. Just stop it right now. Okay, Simeon, hi.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm good. And I'm gonna your book. It's funny that I'm hesitating because I do curse. I do have a potty mouth.
Right.
Simple fucking advice for everyday humans.
That's
And I
correct.
thought the title was hilarious because
Mhm.
people will say what, and then it's a very good kind of hook to get people in. But before we go there, what was the impetus for you to write this book? Where
Um,
did this
th-
book come from?
well, the book came from I read a lot of self-help books, and I think a lot of people do. A lot of people are looking for answers, or sometimes they're looking for direction, or sometimes they're just looking for a glimmer of hope. But with most of the books that I read, they could come off sounding like they were lecturing me, or they were telling me that they had attained this level of gravitas that I'm constantly searching for. And when I wrote this book, it just kind of went back to my roots of where did I get the best advice? And the best advice came from people that were in my life, that were on the same level with me, that understood where I was coming from. Like I said, some of them would drop some F bombs here and there, or just tell me that I needed to pull my head out of my ass. But the real life advice comes from people that talk to you straightforward. And so I wanted to write a book that gave advice, but it's in a kind of very tongue in cheek, don't take yourself too serious way, but at the same time hits on those key components that we really need to find happiness, success, and balance in our life.
Right. And it's interesting because I think it's a marketing ploy,
Mm-hmm.
technique, approach to say, I've achieved this level. And if you want to achieve this level, come with me. Because I've taken lots of these marketing guru people who tell you how to get people's attention. And they say, tell them you're going to take them to where they'll be happy. And I'm like, but I'm not done.
Right.
But they tell you to position yourself that way. So I like that you are like, screw you guys, I'm just going to do it for real and be a real live human being.
Right.
And
And the
go
problem with
ahead.
those people that are at the very top, if they're at the very top, they've stopped climbing. For example, they've stopped growing. And I think any
Right.
human being that stops growing or stops knowing that there's something more kind of misses out on what life's all about, which is about growth and development. If you think you've got it all, then what else do you have to live for? So take every day growing. And I'll never say that I have all the answers. This book
Right.
is basically a testament to saying that I don't have all the answers, but the few answers that I do know, I'm trying to kind of share to the people that I want to hear it.
Right. And it's true. If you stop growing, you stagnate. Right. And I
Mm-hmm.
talked to an 82-year-old this week who is getting his, no, a 70-year-old, an 82-year-old who's on the podcast circuit, and a 70-year-old who's getting her MBA. So
Right.
it's like, wow, you go. That's awesome.
Yes.
And so everyday humans, who would you exclude from everyday humans?
The title's kind of tongue in cheek.
Aliens.
Yeah, the title's tongue in cheek. Even my background is basically outer space, but the thing is simple fucking advice for everyday humans. Okay, and then tidbits of useless knowledge for the rest of us. It kind of implies that if there is an everyday human, that's great, but no one's an everyday human. Everybody in this world has their own unique strengths and weaknesses and mindsets. And I was talking to my wife earlier. I was like, nobody sees the world the exact same way. You could be an identical twin from that's lived together all your life, but your perspective, which is the internal part of you, how you see the life and how you view the life, is only known by you. And so I think the tidbits of useless knowledge for the rest of us is kind of the key component, meaning
Right.
that
That's the part I
you,
missed.
yeah, you may be simple, and there may be some simple advice that you need, but the tidbits of useless knowledge are for the rest of us. It's kind of like this is for all the people that say they know everything, and that is say they've reached that mountaintop, and this is for everybody else, which is
Right.
myself and you and anybody else that's on a growth mindset.
What are there's 8 billion people on the planet, right? I'm sure they
Yes,
could all use it. And we were talking about, so is it broken into like, I'm sorry, I haven't read it yet.
that's okay.
I'll I'll be
Sure,
fully upfront, I haven't read it yet.
sure.
But how, so it's, is it like a piece of advice and then some implementation? And
It's
how much advice have you got to packed in that little book there?
No, there's a ton of advice. It's broken down into 20 chapters. It's not designed to
Oh,
be a massive novel that you read over days and days and days. I sometimes refer to as the toilet bowl reading, that you can sit down and read a chapter whenever you go to the bathroom. And after 20 times going to the bathroom, you've made it to the end. It's
so
kind
you got 3 weeks and you're good.
yeah, so three weeks
If
and you've knocked the
everything's
whole
working
book.
well.
Yeah, if everything's working well, and if it's not, you may finish a lot sooner. So
Right.
right. But
The,
the
go ahead. Yeah,
no, I was gonna say
20?
the books are very simple. The chapters are very simple, but they're very direct to the point as well.
Right. Can you give me an example? Is it giving it
Well,
away if you give me some advice right now?
no, I don't mind. The very first chapter of the book is slow the fuck down. And
Oh,
when you
yeah.
and so when you look at the parallel of slow the fuck down, the premise that I take it on is we live in a world of instant gratification that everybody wants it right now, this very second, and so I kind of correlate it to a hamburger. And I think we're all guilty of this. You're driving home from work and you see the local fatty McPatty. And so you say, you know what, I'm going to drive through, I'm going to get that burger, and you eat it, and it's a burger and it gives you some satisfaction. It may not make you feel very good later, but at least gives you some satisfaction, but it's quick and easy and right there. But then if you slow down a little bit more, you may get a preformed frozen patty from the grocery store. And so you come home and you fire up the gas grill and you throw that burger on there, and it takes a little bit longer, but throw in some fresh veggies and cheese, and it's much better. It took longer, but it's a much better version of that. And then there's the third type, whereas you get fresh ground beef, and out of the corner of your shed, you pull out your charcoal grill and you light the charcoal and you let it heat up to face blazing temperatures, and then you throw it on there and you sear it and you do all that. Takes a ton longer, but the enjoyment that you get out of it is 1,000 times better. And I kind of allude to the fact that it's okay to have fatty McPatties in our lives, but we need to allude to what are the things in our lives that we really want to slow down for, whether it's a relationship, whether it's, we're talking about a gentleman obtaining a new college degree, even though he's 70 years old. The things that we slow down with in life and that we take the time to make like that beautiful, perfectly charcoal burger are the things that should give us the most satisfaction in our life. And the things that are not that important to us, we can settle with the McFatty Patty way.
Right. It's, I had 2 thoughts come into my head. I had a Wagyu burger the other day. Don't know if
Mm,
you've had that. Like, that's
wow.
taking your time with some good meat, because that, what if you grew your own cow and gave it a massage every day? Like, that's some
Yes,
good beef right there. Sorry,
absolutely.
vegetarian friends, but I can't see vegetarianism in my life at this point. But the other thing that popped into my head was, the McFatty Patty. And so social media just drives so much of that now. I
Hmm.
mean, I might be just painting with a broad brush, but when we were kids, I think we're around the same age. When we were kids, if you weren't home and somebody left you a message, they knew you'd get back to them at some point. But now if your phone rings, you're going to answer your phone. Or,
Yes,
didn't you see my post? I posted it like half an hour ago. How come you didn't see it?
right.
And I think also the thing that also came into my head was consuming social media is like consuming one of those fast food, not so great food things, fast
Hmm.
food in quotation marks, because I don't know very many people who feel good after scrolling their social media.
Right. And the problem is that people as a whole, and I kind of allude to this in the book as well, is they begin to define their self-worth by what they see in social media. And so there's twofold on that that's really, really bad. Number one, all these influencers that put everything out there that say this is what I'm supposed to be like. From a guy's perspective, you see these people that are just completely built and muscle bound and all this stuff, probably using performance enhancing drugs, starving themselves, doing all of these things. Those are unattainable goals, but when it's set out as the social norm, then we feel bad about ourselves when we don't reach those. When we are not the supermodel or the even the advice guru that has it all together, we feel like we're coming up short by doing that. And then the second type of it is that people start evaluating themselves by the number of thumbs up, thumbs down, likes, not likes, clicks, and that's a really scary place for society to go when you base your self-worth on whether somebody else had a thumbs up to the dress that you wore that day
or what you ate.
or what you ate. Yeah.
Well, what I also find interesting, and this is what I make a comment to my clients quite often when they talk about stuff on social media. I want to because I just say, it's not real, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even I have friends who have fairly, substantial followings, friends and acquaintances, and I know what's going on behind the scenes. And I just say to people, that's not actually real life. This is like just, everybody's now on TV pretending that everything is perfect and it's, June Cleaver where everything's fabulous, but it's not realistic. And the people who are like the supermodels and the super, I'm like buff beyond belief, that's their full-time job. If it was
Yes.
my full-time job to look good, man, what I would not look like I do currently. I might have had my hair done instead of just putting a brush through it, but if your job is to be in front of people, then you're going to always have that thing. And when you look at um, like the s- gossip newspapers, they're
Mm-hmm.
always trying to catch stars who are just looking normal and making them
Right.
appear like they're somehow failing at being a star. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's just what people look like,
Yes.
right?
Well, and I think if you change your perspective on it a little bit too, I mean, say somebody gets ready to go out on a date and they
Mm.
get dressed up in a beautiful dress or a beautiful outfit and they post it on social media. They go out on that date with that person. They have a wonderful time. They enjoy it. They come back and then they're more concerned about how many of their people that are on their social accounts liked the dress and then the actual person that you went out on the date with. And to me, when you do that by you making kind of a very negative shift in your perspective, you are honestly kind of looking down on the person you went out on a date with. Did you wear that outfit to impress them? That's who you were going out on a date with. If so, mission accomplished. But if you then get home and you wallow in sadness because nobody thumbs it up or liked or said that your dress was pretty, then you have to kind of evaluate who is it you're trying to go out on a date with. Are you trying to go out on a date with that special someone, or are you trying to go on a date with everybody in the social media influence?
Right? Yeah. Like, what is who? And I would even say dress up for yourself, but
Yes,
that's a whole other
100%.
thing. But it's interesting that people their self-worth is tied so much to people like and think of the likes, like these aren't people you probably actually know
Mm-hmm.
versus this person who's standing right in front of you. So you're
Yes.
putting your self-worth into digital clicks of,
Mm-hmm.
we could go down the rabbit hole of existentialism and everything's connected and we're all one. But
Right.
at the same time, you don't know these people.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you care what they think of you? And there's
Right.
that whole I love Dr. Seuss, but I think I keep attributing it to him, but I don't know. Other people. It's a take on other people's opinion of you. It's none of your business. Like,
Mm-hmm.
who cares? But if
Right.
you are worried more about them than the person you're with, then how disconnected does that make you? I mean, I talk a lot about community and how important it is for your well-being. If you can't connect with the person sitting across from you because the fake people, they're not fake people, but the semi-fake people that you
Mm-hmm.
don't know on social media are pulling you away. That's a bad spiral to go down.
It is, and it's neat to see. I mean, we dog on the rich and famous, but it's also neat to see the people that have achieved a certain level of success and still maintain that. I mean, because if you go back and look at Steve Jobs, he was always wearing a turtleneck
Yeah.
and the same outfit all the time. And the reason why is not because he didn't care about fashion; it's because he didn't want to dedicate precious resources that could be developing Apple computers and things like this to what he was going to wear that day. Albert Einstein did the same thing. You look at Keanu
Right.
Reeves, who's like one of the greatest actors going right now. He rides the subway. You can pull up, and the crazy thing about that is you'll see him sitting on a subway and nobody's bothering him because they don't even know he's famous, because he just carries himself in such a down to earth way. He's that grounded, and so it's
I'd be
not
too
a,
scared to go and talk to him.
it could be that, but I think a lot of people are have a hard time getting grounded, and that's what it really
Yeah.
really gets to when you're comfortable with yourself. And I love what you said. You said some people need to just dress for themselves. When you're comfortable with yourself and you know who you are, you care less about what other people think you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's easier for you to navigate the world, um, being like when you meet someone who you can just, there's just an energy to them that's like they are solid in themselves. And
Yeah.
they're not worried about any of that. They have for me, they have a certain magnetism like, wow,
Mhm.
that's so cool that you're
Yeah.
like so grounded and solid. And I think it frees you to get on to the things that you want to get on with your life, right? So when you
Mhm.
stop worrying about those things, because a lot of what holds people back from what they're supposed to do in life is because they're afraid what people are going to say about it,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, that's
And
100% true. And when you talk to people too, when you meet a stranger on the street, and if I walked up to a random stranger and I said, "Hey, my name's Simeone Fruke. It's nice to meet you. Who are you?" The first thing that they're going to start telling you is what they do. They're going to say, "Oh, well, I work at such and such, and I do that." Which you're asking them, "Who are you?" Not what do you do. That's the first thing
yeah,
they're going to tell you is I work here, and this is what defines me. And then you say, okay, well, that's not what I was asking. That's where you work. That's great. But who are you? And they're like, oh, well, I like to go roller skating, and I like to do, okay, well, now you're telling me your hobbies, but you're not telling me who you are. Only after you've gone through those two barriers, when you're really talking to somebody, you say, no, who are you? And then they may say, well, you know what? I love being a father, or I really love writing, or you know what, I'm a passionate teacher, I love teaching. Those are still things that they're doing, but they dig a little deeper outside of the extrinsic and into the intrinsics of who they are. And if
right,
and if and if we will dig into those intrinsic factors in our life and find not just strength in them, but confidence, self-worth in those things, then I think as society as a whole, we're going to be much more productive and much more happy.
right. Now I remembered when you told me the name of the first chapter. Then I remember the first chapter is slow the fuck down, and then you just turn them around and go, now speed the fuck up.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yes. So the slowing down is like, is that you're kind of disconnecting from the external judgy McJudgersons, or
mhm.
and then the speed up is what's that? Or
The,
did I
the,
get that wrong?
the, no, you're right. The slow down is take a step back, take more time with the things that are important to you, and slow down so that you can actually realize everything that life has to offer. The second chapter, Speed the Fuck Up, basically deals with when there's times in our life that we need to speed the fuck up. We're so intimidated by like what you exactly just said, what other people think or what they might judge us as, that we're scared to speed the fuck up. So when an opportunity comes for a job that you're like, man, this is really exciting, but I'm really really scared because what if this fails, or we don't speed the fuck up. I use the example of a cheetah, because a cheetah is the fastest land mammal that's on earth, and they go like 70 miles an hour. And so when you look at a cheetah, you go, man, that is fast, that is quick, they are hauling. But then you look at how the cheetah hunts its prey, and what it does is it slows the fuck down for hours as it slowly stalks its prey. It slowly moves little by little into position. It's slowly moving through life, just like we talked about in chapter 1. But when the moment strikes and it needs to go, it speeds the fuck up for about 20 seconds. And so the
Boom.
fastest creature goes boom for 20 seconds, but that 20 seconds may be all that we need in life to seize an opportunity, to tell somebody how you feel about them, like genuinely how you feel about them. I know there's thousands of people that they need to have their moment, maybe they're going to get rejected. Maybe they say, hey, you know what, I love you and I really want to spend the rest of my life with you, and they get rejected. But you need to know that in that moment too, because if that's not an avenue you need to pursue, then it's not a negative. It's okay, well, now I need to slow down again and start looking at my life and seeing where it's going to take me.
It's funny, so much of television is the unrequited love. You know, "Oh, I can't tell them. Oh, I can't tell," and are we trying to model that? Like, come on, people. Do you wanna
Right.
spend your life alone pining for someone? Just go and pull the Band-Aid off. One of the
Mhm.
favorite phrases that I heard recently, I was in an online course, and, I must have used this at some point in my life. I don't have a lot I don't think that I need it right now, but it only takes 10 seconds of courage to go and do something that you're afraid to do. It would take me 10 seconds of courage to go and talk to Keanu Reeves on the subway.
Yeah,
It's just because
yeah,
it's just
exactly.
because 'cause I'm shy. But,
Hmm.
like getting on a podcast or sending emails to strangers who I don't know or doing these things. Some people that like they just tie themselves up in knots to even like voice an opinion. It's like 10 seconds. All it takes 10 seconds. She was using the example of you want to pitch your idea to a media company. Just
Right.
dial the phone number. Once it's dialed, you're committed,
Right.
and you just go for it. But
Yes.
to get up and dial the number is that first like is that maybe that's the cheetah moving fast. I'm going. Okay,
Yeah.
now what do I do? Holy crap!
Mhm. Yeah, and that 10 seconds is for everybody. When I first went off to college, I went to college. I went from a very small rural town of about 800 people into a college that was Oklahoma State University. You had like 20,000 people there, you know, and I was miserable. I mean, absolutely miserable at that college. And the reason why is because I had absolutely zero social skills. I couldn't talk to
Right,
somebody. I had no friends. I went back to my dorm every day, sat, woke up the next day. I'd gone from a area where I had social skills in this very small rural town because everybody knew everybody and all of this stuff, and you kind of grew up together. But then when I went off to this bigger pond, my social ability and my social development wasn't at the point to where I could even go, hey, you're taking this class too. Do you think we could study together? Completely
right.
incapable of that 10 seconds. I was completely incapable of saying, hey, do you want to go out and get a bite to eat after class today? I was completely incapable. And so, because of my personally inability to take that 10 seconds, I spent a full year off at college to where I was just miserable, you know, and then I had to come back home and then I had to go to a different college. And to make a long story short, it's people think that that 10 seconds is something that you're either born with or you're not born with. It's really not. It's you have the courage to do it the first time, and then you know what, that 10 seconds was really 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 hard, and then next time you do it, it's still pretty hard, but it's a little bit easier, and then the next time, and before long you find that those 10 seconds that you're taking out of life, they're not taking out of life, they're building into your life. And
Right.
so,
The
taking those
first one
chances
is
and making those
yeah,
leaps.
the first one's definitely the hardest, and when you do the first one, the thing you should do is go, "Wow, I didn't die.
Yeah, that should be the threshold. Yes.
Wow, I didn't die. Let's do another one." It's
Yes.
funny because I had kind of the same experience. I came from I mean, where I grew up had 20,000 people, so
Right.
it had a little more than 800, but when I went to university, I went to our nation's capital. I moved to Ottawa where I didn't know anybody.
Right.
I had one person who I knew who was from my high school, but he was in engineering and I was in
Mm,
finance. So I only
I
ever
see.
saw him, when he drove me back and forth to my parents on the weekends. And it was the first year, oh my gosh, I was because I am super shy. I'm a super shy little person, and I was just like
Mhm.
hide in the corner. And
Right.
this is a big, scary city, It's like
Right.
we got to equip these poor kids. Although now they don't even look up. I see crowds of kids all standing in a circle looking at their I got my phone in my hand. It's looking at
Yeah.
their cell phone. It's like, even at dinner, adults are doing this. I've made a rule when I go out for dinner with people, no phones, not even on the
Mhm.
table.
It's important.
Because even if it's on the table, it's got that like magnetic pull to it. Like you just want to touch it. It's like an
Mhm.
addiction. And it's interesting that we I don't know if they're allowing phones in classrooms, but I don't think that they they can't you can't control yourself if you're
Mhm.
looking at it every single hour, like even in an hour. Like I've turned off all my notifications on my phone except for people who are important.
Right.
Their notifications can come through because it pulls you out of your day. It
Mhm.
pulls you out of where you are in your existence, the
Right.
now moments, into the digital moments, which
Mhm.
mm, they have less form.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the thing behind you, the planet behind you. I was like,
Oh, yeah, it's got a good form.
that's
Yeah.
fake too, but so is this.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's all fake. I like what you said. You take away from the social cue. Like people today, I think, have lost track of the social cues that normally start conversations and stuff. I'm a big science nerd, so I'm always reading science stuff. And I saw, there's people that if they see somebody that's getting sick and throwing up, then it automatically makes them get sick and throw up. And so I saw people that do that. And so I was like, well, my nerdy self said, well, I've got to figure out why that happens. Why does that happen to some people and not others? And the actual reason behind it was a social cue. If you go back hundreds of years, if people were sitting around and they were eating a meal together and one person started vomiting, it meant that there was something wrong or poisonous or endangered with the food. And so if you go back hundreds of years, the social cue that was everybody. Everybody
Right,
would pick up on that social cue and unconsciously, subconsciously, they would automatically start expelling whatever thing they had eaten, which sounds disgusting and gross, but it tells you how cued in people were before cell phones, before technology, before all of this. You didn't have, is this person like me or not because they put a thumbs up. It was the social cues are what you had to pick up on. The changing in color in people's cheeks, do they smile from the eyes? Do they smile from the lips? All of these things we're a lot more in tune of. And now you're right. You go to a table of people sitting at a mall eating, and they're all eating and they're all communicating, but they're not communicating with one another because they're communicating with that little box in front of them.
right. It's like, are you with each other? No, you're just sharing the same table.
Right.
You're strangers. And I was thinking like cues and um, social, and maybe you can. I'm not going to blame COVID on this one because started happening way before COVID. Like just being a good human being. Let's talk about
Mhm.
everyday human beings. If you say hello to someone on the street in a big city, there's
Yeah.
like, whoa, whoa, they think you're begging for money or something.
Right.
Or in traffic, here especially, I have noticed a huge shift in traffic. I know
Hmm.
sometimes I'm going to cut someone off. I give them a wave. Thank you for not killing me. Does anybody
Right.
ever wave anymore? Like, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for letting me in. No,
Hmm.
pleases and thank yous. Nobody says please and thank you anymore. What's up? My
Yeah.
grandmother told me it was very important.
Yeah, we live in a very small community. It's funny that you said that because it's hilarious. When my wife moved to this small community that we live in, I've lived in this area all my life. And when you're driving on your steering wheel, you're holding your steering wheel like this. And so we were driving down the road and we drove past this person and they went, and it's just like a subconscious this. And so we drove past the first person, and I do this, and they do this. We drive on by, and it's almost like a social norm, a social cue norm. And so
You
we
just give
drive
them a
by
little
another.
wave, a little
Yes,
one
it's like
finger
this.
wave.
Sometimes it's this, but sometimes it's just this, just real casual. And after passing about the fifth or sixth person, she's like, "Why is everybody flipping everybody off here?" I was like, no, it's not flipping everybody off. It's just like, hey, how you doing? It's just kind of a social cue that's kind of grown in a rural community. But as you get into the bigger cities, you're right. I mean, because I travel all over, and you go to a bigger community, and I live with those common courtesies of somebody's walking behind you, hold the door open for them. That's just kind of
Yeah.
common courtesy and stuff. And it's not, or we're all about, like you said, somebody let you in, you wave, let them know that you're thanking them for letting in, but the bigger the society, I think the more it pulls away from those social interactions. And it's kind of just like, is it expected or is it just the way it is?
So, science nerd guy. So, I think there's some study about the ideal size of a population, a village is something like 100,
Mm-hmm.
so that there's enough supports. and there's enough community connection. And then once you get beyond that, it becomes more and more complex and harder to manage, and more
Hmm.
stuff breaks down. I don't know if you've seen that study. Have you seen that study?
I haven't. I mean, we basically live it. I mean, we live in a very rural area to where, the sense of community is there, but you also get away from, if you want to go to a mall or a shopping center, you're going to drive an hour to get there, you know.
Right.
But as far as things, everything we're able to meet as far as medical and things like that in this area. But I haven't seen that study, but I'm sure that's
Maybe I can't remember if it's 100 or 1,000. It might be 1,000.
right.
Um, and I can't remember how. Maybe that's something else that I'll email you later today with
Yeah, yeah, I'd
something
love to
to
look into it. 100%.
yeah, because it is like you can see as cities like 20,000 people was a pretty good size. You didn't get into everybody's business. That's where I grew up. You didn't get into everybody's business, but you kind of knew most of the people around the neighborhood. You could
Right.
recognize when people weren't from there. And
Hmm.
but then as you get larger and larger, it becomes more and more disconnected. And I think it isolates people more. I was
Yes.
talking to somebody, I think it was last week's podcast, that we were talking about loneliness and how there's, like in the UK, they've got a ministry for loneliness because
Hmm.
so many people are so isolated. And
Right.
as much as we're more connected, like you can find out about it raining, on the other side of the world. I can
Yes.
talk to someone in Australia, so I can talk to someone and it's tomorrow there, even though it's today here.
Right.
So we're more connected, but we're not.
Yes. There's a human drive to be. I mean, it's called herd behavior. I mean, it's basically named off of what it is, and herd behavior just says that people want to be with similar people doing similar things. And there's actually a study, and you can YouTube this or look it up. It's hilarious, but it's called the doctor's office beep test. And what they did is they
Gosh.
took, it's hilarious. They take one
Yeah,
patient that's planted, and he's there first, and then another patient comes in and sits down, and then every time they hear a beep, the one person that's planted stands up. And so the first time the guy just kind of looks at him, he's like, "What are you doing?" Second time, looks at him. Third time, he stands up with him and sits down. And then as more and more people trickle into the doctor's office, you'll see 35 people that are just subconsciously, it's beeping. It's time to stand up. Everybody stands up. It's
right.
beeping again.
Nobody
Time to sit
asks
down.
why.
Nobody even asks why. They just want to be with everybody else. And that's kind of where that social media thing comes in too. I mean, I think herd behavior is great in some aspects, but in humanity and individualism and who you are, feel free being the weirdo. Being the weirdo is the
Right.
good thing. Being different is a bonus, to
Put
me. I
your
would
freak
never,
on.
yes, I would never want to just be normal. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. And I have seen that um, experiment. And what I find super interesting about it is, not that I'm a complete conspiracy theorist or anything, but it's such a interesting way to control a population,
Hmm.
right? You can get people to do things because they think they're going to get kicked off the island. It's like, oh, if I
Yes.
don't do this, I'm going to get kicked off the island. So I guess I'll do it. It's like, oh my gosh, really?
Yes.
Get kicked off the island.
Yeah. And it's been
And
around.
I
Go
mean, I
ahead.
think that came about when we evolved, right? Because you needed community to be able to survive. Because
Hmm.
we know how hard it is to do everything yourself. Imagine if you had to grow your own food and do your own laundry and build your own house, like all by yourself. There's a
Right.
reason hermits live in a cave and they're all really skinny and starving
Hmm. Oh yeah.
because that's hard work. So we needed that community, but now we've created this crazy world where you can live by yourself, but you
Hmm.
need that social connection for your mental health.
Hmm.
And I think we're losing that.
Social connection and curiosity as well are things that have kind of driven mankind. Have you watched the movie The Greatest Showman?
No.
It's about it's not P.T. Barnum. Who is it about they used to have the circus, with the bearded lady and all of this stuff. And
Yeah.
it's way back then. And back then that was absolutely a failure for them. They couldn't get anybody to come in the door, anything like that. And so he said, the producer said, we've got to get people in here. And so he had one of his hands. He goes, I'm going to give you 15 bricks. He goes, and I want you to lay the 15 bricks around the block, and I want you to put them equally spaced all around the block. He goes, okay, came back. He goes, boss, what do you want to do? Nobody's still coming in the doors. He goes, here's what I want you to do. You have to go out there and you have to be silent, but I want you to pick up one brick and I want you to walk to the next brick. You're going to put that brick down. You're going to pick up the next brick. You're going to do that all around the building. You're not going to say anything. People ask you questions, you ignore them. But you do this all the way around the building. When you get to the front of the building, I want you to walk the brick in the front doors. And he goes, okay. And so the guy went out there, true story, guy went out there and he picks up a brick, walks, picks up, people ask, hey, what are you doing? Why are you moving these bricks? Says nothing, ignores them. 2 or 3 more people following. He goes all the way around the front. He goes in the front. They're like, what are you doing? He goes in the front door. The people follow him. The person standing there, it's going to be 25 cents to get in, please. So they pay the 25 cents to get in. They go in, and then they see all of these oddities, these weird, the bearded lady and all the little different things in there. Well, the guy walks out with a brick, leaves the people behind, does the exact same thing, walks around. Now more people gather around, they're fun because it's just that human nature, that curious nature of what's going on and what's happening. But that's the way he became popular, is by having such a simple marketing concept, of just walking around silent, letting it be a mystery. Here's 4 more people in.
We need some bricks.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yes.
Now, your book,
Mm-hmm.
is it an ebook yet, or are you just on paper?
It's an ebook, it's an audiobook, it's a hardback, and it's a paperback.
Whoa, look at you. Audiobook
Yeah.
even.
Yes.
That makes me happy. I'm a big audiobook person.
I am too, most definitely.
Because I walk a lot. And that's my jam, audiobooks and podcasts. And where do they find their audiobooks and podcasts or audiobooks and hards and softs and
pretty much everywhere? I mean, you can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, any online bookstores there. A lot of your independent bookstores already carry it. It's been up for about a week on Amazon. It's got over 70 reviews at 4.9 stars right now.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. It's been taken off. I appreciate it. It's funny. Almost all of them are 5 stars. I get a few 4 stars, occasional 3 star, and they are the ones that are like, well, it just cussed in it, and I'm like,
yeah, check the title, buddy.
don't buy the book if you're offended. It's not intended to be offensive. It's intended to be lighthearted. Don't take yourself too seriously, but at the same time,
you're trying to tell me that you don't. I don't know anybody who doesn't cuss at least every now and then.
Yes, absolutely. And some people may not, but if you don't, and if you're offended by profanity, please don't buy the book, because I don't want a bad review because you didn't know it was there. But if you want to get real with yourself, that's kind of what the book's about. It's about giving you ways to find inspiration in your life and to not take life too seriously. If you take life too seriously, I think you're going to be miserable. And just to kick back and enjoy life.
That's awesome. I love it. And you know what? I always end my podcast with the guest giving me some final words of wisdom. But you've been like sharing wisdom all the time. But do you have a wisdom drop that you haven't dropped yet?
I can. People often say this. They have to say that in order to get started in life, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a job, whether it's in, you have to find what your fuel is. You have to find what's going to spur you to one step or the next step. And when people ask me that, they're like, you don't understand, everything's just bad in my life. And I say, well, you know what? Let's see what your fuel can be. If I was going to start a fire right now, I could crumble up paper and I could start a fire, and that could be your fuel. I could chop down some trees, have some wood, start a fire. That would be your fire. I said, but the ancient nomads didn't have any of those things. So what they went around and found piles of dried up camel shit. And they used dried up camel shit to light and be their fire. So even if things are going great in your life, or even if things are going really shit in your life, let that be your fuel, but don't let anything hold you back from being the best person you can be and obtaining the dreams that you've always wanted.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I spent several months in India where they burn a lot of cow dung, and it smells bad.
It does.
But man, It warms a house when you need it warm, right?
It does. It does.
So that's like a that's the Simeon Fruke make lemons from lemonade.
That's the version
Build
of
your
it.
fire with camel shit.
That works.
That's awesome.
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness. So definitely, thank you so much for joining me.
Of
That was
course.
awesome.
Thank you for having me.
I feel like there's still more to know. So after I read the book, we're gonna hook up again.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll be happy to come back.
yeah, friends in podcast land, share this with people who won't be offended by swearing. And if you don't like it, don't review it.
Yeah, there you go. That's the way it
Right?
works. Uh-huh.
But if you did like it, give us a review. Go over and check out all of the forms of the book. I know people who buy the audio and the hard copy and the soft copy because they like the hard copy on the shelf. They like the
Mhm.
soft copy to play with, and they like to listen to it while they highlight the soft
Yeah,
copy.
that's true.
So those are definitely book of files. I don't know what they're
Mhm.
called.
I think that's exactly it.
Okay, book of files. So, podcast land. Until next week, keep it real, my friends. Have an amazing day. Take care. Mwah. Thank you.
Bye.